Welcome back to another video, and today we got our week 2 college basketball Power 40 rankings. Now we're doing these every single Monday, so make sure you subscribe if you are new, and like this video if you enjoy. Turn on the noties to make sure you don't miss whenever we upload, because not only do we have college basketball videos every single Monday, we do NFL videos. We're switching those to Tuesday. We're doing NFL videos every Tuesday, college football top 25 rankings every Wednesday, and then, of course, NBA Playoff Watch every Thursday, along with MLB content when that season is up and running. So if any of that interests you, make sure you go down there, subscribe if you are new. But with all that being said, let's just go ahead and get right on into our Power 40. So we're starting off with the bottom, 15 teams of the Power 40. And starting off at the very bottom here with our number 40 team, it's going to be Miami, moving down one. Not necessarily because they did anything wrong, just because I felt some teams deserved to jump them. But when looking at Miami, they started off pretty solid. I mean, not really anything concerning. I mean, the offense has looked very good for them. They put up over 80, 85 points in both their games. Yes, they haven't played anyone, but they are 2-0 to start off things, so that's always a good sign. We're going to our next team here at number 39. It's going to be Pitt, and when looking at Pitt, they're kind of in the same boat. Again, haven't really played anyone, but nothing really too concerning. I mean, they won their first game by 40 and their second game by 25. They're a little bit higher in KenPom than Miami is. It's kind of why I had them here. And also, I had them higher originally. Oh, sorry. They're moving down one spot. Moving on to our next team, it's going to be Clemson, also moving down one. And it's kind of same boat. They haven't really struggled. They've looked solid so far, but they haven't played anyone. And I just kind of have these ACC teams here grouped together right now because there's just really nothing telling me that this should necessarily change at this point. At number 37, kind of a crazy fall here. We usually don't see this too often. I have UCLA dropping 17 spots now. The reason is because they go out first game, beat Rider. Obviously, we're expected to do that, or they were expected to do that. Then they go out and lose to New Mexico at home by 8 points. There was never really a doubt where UCLA was going to lose. I mean, they were losing essentially the entire game. They've taken a pretty hefty fall here in terms of KenPom. The defense is still looking very solid, but I mean, I don't know. It's not looking good, at least as of right now for UCLA. Now, maybe New Mexico is just better than we expected. I have New Mexico ranked right ahead of them. When looking at New Mexico, I mean, they're a team that's usually pretty good out on the Mountain West. They're 2-0, and they have that road win against UCLA. So I think as of this point at least, they're definitely deserving to be in the top 40 teams. So I have them just ahead of UCLA, new to the Power 40. Our other new team, only two new teams to the Power 40 this week. I'm sure there will be plenty in the weeks to come, just because we're kind of still getting a sense for all these teams. But number 35, I have UCF joining the Power 40. I don't want to bump them up too high just because I kind of want to see what they got. I mean, they beat Texas A&M at home by 3. Obviously, a huge win, great win. But then they go out there and kind of struggle with Purdue Fort Wayne. So that kind of turned me off a little bit at least for UCF's sake. They are very low in KenPom as well. The offense does look to be struggling. Again, only 2 games in, so don't want to overreact. But obviously, the huge win over Texas A&M, I think, is deserving enough for them to get bumped up into this spot. Number 34, I have Xavier not moving. They're getting a lot of votes in the AP poll, and I really don't understand it. I mean, I have them here at 34, but the 2 games they played, they beat Texas Southern by 9 points, and then I believe this is an FCS team by 14. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't look very appealing to me when looking at Xavier. I mean, I don't know. The defense looks a little bit questionable. I mean, they gave up 80 points to IU Indy. If that's not an FCS team, they're a first year team in D1. So that's usually not a good sign, but I think Xavier will get better as the season goes on. They will have Wake Forest this week, is a team that I'm very high on, so we'll see how they play there in that game. That will definitely give a good sense for the Musketeers. Moving on though to number 33, I got Michigan State moving up one spot from last week. And when looking at Michigan State, this is actually exactly where KenPom has them ranked. They have them ranked at 33. I will say the defense so far, at least, looks like a very, very solid defense. And the offense, they've put up more than 80 points in both games. They almost eclipsed 100. But the thing with Michigan State, they haven't played anyone. They play Kansas though this week in the Champions Classic, and obviously Kansas is uh, number one in the AP poll. I'm sure you all know that. We'll see where I have them ranked. Um, Moving on though, number 32, I have Oregon moving up 3 spots, and I believe the Michigan State is moving up 3 spots as well. I'm not sure, but I feel like I remember having Michigan State at 36, so that might be a error on my end. Just know Michigan State is moving up a couple spots. But moving on to Oregon, moving up 3 spots. They've only played, you know, bad teams. A lot of these teams. They beat UC Riverside by 15 points, and then went out and beat Montana by 31. When looking at Oregon, they're actually very high in KenPom. They're top 40 in both offense and defense, so I like to see that. That's usually something you look for when making March Madness predictions. Obviously, we're still very early, though. Kansas State is going to be the next team here. I kind of just kept them in this range because at this point, there's not really any movement I feel necessary with them. Again, a lot of these teams really haven't played anyone. Um, so we're kind of just gonna have to wait and see. They played a little bit of a close game with Cleveland State. They won by 13 though. They play LSU this week, and I know LSU is maybe not definitely not the best SEC team, but it is a Power 5 team, so that's always something good to look for. We'll see how they play there. Number 30, I have Michigan moving down 3. With Michigan, they actually looked really good against Wake Forest. These are two teams that I'm pretty high on coming into this year, Michigan and Wake Forest. And Wake Forest won by 2. It was a very close game, back and forth game. They play TCU on Friday, so that will be a good test. I do expect them to come out and win that game. I think it'll be good for them. They're still ranked top 30 in KenPom. KenPom has them at 29. Top 40 in both offense and defense. Pretty well-rounded team when looking at them. They look under Dusty May. I think Michigan looks like a turn. I know it's only 2 games in, so maybe I shouldn't be saying all this, but they actually looked really good against Wake Forest. I mean, both those teams looked like tournament-level teams. I watched the game, or at least the second half of the game. I didn't watch the first half, but I did watch the second half of the game. Both these teams looked like really solid, well-coached teams. Number 29, I have Texas moving down 6 spots. I had them in the top 25 last week, but they are there no longer. They went out and lost to Ohio State in their opening game. Obviously, I think everyone knows that. I think Texas is still a good team and still potentially a tournament team. We'll see with them, but they're still ranked 25th in KenPom, top 40 in offense and defense. And they did look like a pretty good team against Houston Christian. Again, it's against, how much you want to take from that, I don't really know. But they did win by 30, so not, a struggle game of any means. Number 28, I have Ole Miss. I'm kind of surprised they're still ranked in the AP poll. I can't get around that. I mean, they almost lost to Grambling. I know they won. Now, Ole Miss has a relatively easy non-conference once again. I mean, last year that was the huge talking point. In the SEC ACC Challenge later in December, they play Louisville. I mean, you could be looking at an undefeated Ole Miss heading into SEC play once again. They do play BYU, which will be interesting. BYU is a team that I was pretty close to adding into the Power 40, but couldn't quite get around to it. But when looking at Ole Miss, they're ranked I believe ranked 60th in KenPom. I don't know. They're ranked 61st in KenPom. Outside of the top 40 in both offense and defense, their defense is ranked 88th. Um, and they almost lost to Grambling. So at this point, you got to move Ole Miss down a little bit. I don't want to overreact. We are only a week in, but you got to move them down. You can't keep them in the top 25 at this point. Cincinnati is moving very high up in the ranks in the AP poll. I'm not all the way in on them yet. I kind of want to see them play somebody first. And I mean, the next Power 5 team they play is going to be around Thanksgiving when they play Georgia Tech on the road. And Georgia Tech's already lost a game. They do play Villanova, but Villanova also already lost to a lackluster team. They do have some tough games, though, in here in the non-conference. They play Xavier, Dayton, so we'll see eventually with them. But as of right now, I kind of want to wait till I get all the way into Cincinnati. I know people expect big things from them. They are ranked 13th in KenPom, so maybe I'm sleeping on them. They're top 20 in both offense and defense right now. Um, I was very close on putting them in the top 25, but I felt that the teams ahead of them deserved. I felt this was as high as I could put them at this point. Now, are they going to be in the top 25 next week? Maybe. We'll see, depending on how all these teams look. Number 26, I have Rutgers moving up 2 spots, and you could argue Rutgers shouldn't be this high, but I think defensively, they look. I mean, they're ranked 12th in defense right now, defensive efficiency, and I like to see that. I mean, when looking at Rutgers, they won their first game by 23 points. Um, I believe Dylan Harper, yeah, he put up 20 points. Ace Billy's yet to play. He's arguably, yeah, he probably is their best player. Um, so, I think Rutgers is going to be just fine. I think they probably make the tournament. But again, they've only played one game. A lot of these teams have played two. They've only played one. So, kind of trying not to overreact here. But moving on into the top 25, we're going to kick it off with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And when looking at Texas Tech here, they win both of their games by 20 plus points, one of them by 30 plus. Again, they're another one of these teams that just have not played anyone, but I will give them some credit where credit is due. I mean, they're getting a whole lot of votes in the AP poll, so maybe you could argue that I'm not, alone on this completely, and it's not like they're getting no respect. But they're ranked 12th in KenPom, 16th in offense, 13th in defense. That looks really good to me. You could argue the same thing with Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is also right in this range as well. And I think a lot of these teams in this 21 to 30 range are pretty interchangeable, at least in my eyes. It just looks a little better when you're on this side of the top, when you're inside the top 25 and not on the other side. So I could see the argument. But moving on to our number 24 team, it's going to be St. John's. And when looking at St. John's, Rick Pitino has taken over this team last year. I think this is the year he gets them in the not the playoffs, into the tournament. I know he was very close last year, and it is only year 2, but I think a lot of people expect that from him, and they are top 15 in defense and just outside the top 20 in offense, at least as of right now. Now, obviously, all of these rankings are subject to change. They all change within every game played. They can change drastically here at the start of the year, but they've won both their games by 20 plus points. They do have a game against Baylor here coming up, not this week but next week, so that'll definitely be good to see how they fare in that game. They also play at Georgia, so St. John's has got some tough games coming up, so we'll definitely see what Pitino's cooking over there. Number 23, I have Illinois. I think at this point, Illinois is okay to have in the top 25. They've put up 90 plus points in both their games. They do play Alabama here, not this week, but next week. So that'll definitely be a huge game. But they're ranked 20th in KenPom right now, 15th in offense, 40th in defense. They're looking like a high-paced, high-scoring team. How well will they be, with losing pretty much their whole team from last year after the Elite Eight run? That remains to be seen. But at this point, I think they are a top 25 team, at least in my eyes. Whoops, I'm gonna go back here. I didn't mean to show that next team. But Florida is our next team here at 22. And, when looking at Florida, we're not going to really talk about the coaching situation. I'm just going to let that play out. If that is true, if the allegations are true, that is just terrible. But we're going to ignore that and just look at the team. Walter Clayton Jr. looks like he's going to potentially be an All American player this year. The offense looks like an elite offense. They're ranked 13th right now in KenPom. I didn't move them because through the first two games, in the first game against South Florida, they did struggle a little bit, but I kind of expected that. I didn't want to bump them down or anything, so I just kept them where they were at. I feel like that's fair. Looking at our next team, it's going to be Wake Forest. They win that game against Michigan, one of the best games of the first week of college basketball. They win by 2 points. It was a very tough game. They came in on top, so I rewarded them there. The same thing goes with Wake Forest. I think they are definitely the third best team in the ACC, and I could see Wake Forest getting a top 5 seed in the tournament this year. I'm very high on them with Hunter Salas. He's one of the best players in the country. Moving on over to Texas A&M, obviously the story here is, this is the year with Buzz Williams. This is the most talented team he's ever had. All of their guys, well, not all of their guys, but really a lot of their important players, Wade Taylor specifically, come back from last year after getting in the tournament as a 9 seed and almost beating Houston in the tournament. So everyone expected them to have this crazy year. They were ranked 13th in the AP poll, 15th in mine, and now I drop them to 20 after losing a road game to UCF. Obviously, a huge loss there and very disappointing loss. But I will say I thought this was going to be a potential upset spot for them. I don't want to fault them too much for this loss, but it is a little bit concerning. Um, I have to drop them down somewhat, but they're still ranked 18th in KenPom, still just narrowly outside a top 25 offense and defense. I think Texas A&M will be fine. I mean, again, UCF was a team that people thought could be sneaky good, and I thought there was a chance they would lose. So again, don't want to fault them too much. It was the first game of the year, and it's never easy to play a Big 12 team on the road, especially in your season opener. Moving on though to our number 19 team, it's going to be Arkansas. I'm not going to worry too much about them just yet. They lost to Baylor in what was a game where they kind of trailed for pretty much the whole game, but it's not like Baylor ever really pulled away. I mean, they won by 5 points, but I will say Baylor was in control for pretty much the entire game. Um, this Arkansas team really reminds me of just a typical John Calipari team. Um, so when looking at that, I mean, I don't know. I kind of want to see more from Arkansas. I drop them down 3 spots, but losing to Baylor, it's not the end of the world. Baylor's a very good team. Number 18, I have Kentucky overpassing Arkansas. Kind of funny how that played out, but I think Kentucky at this point, they put up 100 plus points in both of their games to start the year, and they play Duke in the Champions Classic tomorrow. So that's going to definitely be a must-watch game, and we're going to see how good Kentucky really is, because Duke is um, potentially a national championship contender. I do worry about this defense with Kentucky a little bit, but as of right now, I got them ranked at 18. Number 17, I have Ohio State moving up 2 spots, and I'm still higher on Ohio State than pretty much everyone. I mean, I was higher. I had them ranked 19th coming in, so I was way higher on Ohio State than the AP poll. The AP poll does have them ranked now, but when looking at this, I think they should be higher. I mean, they went out and beat a ranked team. They're going to play Texas A&M later this week, so that's going to be a chance to pick up another ranked win. And we'll see. Jake Diebler so far has this team sitting at 2-0. They're a top 20 team in offense and defense in KenPom, and they're ranked 16th in KenPom. So I think Ohio State at this point, I'm trying to keep my bias aside, but I think they have one of the best resumes, at least up to this point. Again, we're only at the most 2 games in for a lot of these teams. Number 16, I have Indiana. I'm going to keep Indiana ahead just for the fact that I think Indiana is probably going to be better than Ohio State, and I think, you could argue I should have jumped them, but I'll give Indiana the benefit of the doubt. They've put up 80 plus points in both their two games, and they play South Carolina this week, who did lose to North Florida, but it is a Power 5 team, so we'll see how they play there this Saturday. Number 15, I have Marquette, going to move up here. I didn't feel like I needed to jump any of the. I mean, you notice how they're all moving up too. I mean, these teams were all, right by each other last week. And I think Marquette, as of right now, is looking pretty solid. Cam Jones, through the first two games, is averaging 28 points a game. I mean, he's going to be one of the best scorers in the country, one of the best players in the country. And they play at Maryland this Friday. That is actually a huge game. And then the next week they play Purdue and then at Georgia. So, they play Central Michigan here tonight, but then their next three games are all Power 5 teams, and we're going to really see what Marquette is made of here. Number 14, I have Tennessee not moving. When looking at Tennessee, yes, I do expect them to be a good team. They went into Louisville and beat them by 22 points. Very impressive, obviously. So, you like to see that if you are a Tennessee fan. But, didn't feel the need to move them up. I will say the defense, once again, looks elite for Tennessee. Number 13, I have Creighton. Ryan Kalkbrenner, what an absolute stat. I mean, what was it, 47 points? I believe it was something like that. I mean, here, let me just pull it up real quick. He put up 49. So, 49 points in the season opener, along with 11 rebounds and 3 blocks. I mean, he's looking like a much better defender, at least as of right now. Stephen Ashworth looks really good as well. He's averaging 20 points through 2 games of the season. Creighton looks like a force. I mean, through their first 2 games, I know they haven't played anyone, but they put up 99 and 96 points. So that is obviously huge, when looking at them. But I do want to kind of wait and see for them to play an actual team before I get all in on Creighton. Number 12, I have Purdue. Same thing here. We'll see with Purdue. I don't want to get too excited quite yet. Braden Smith is doing his thing. Braden Smith is actually disappointing. I meant to say Fletcher Lawyer is actually having a very good start to the season, averaging 18.5 points. Braden Smith, a little bit of a slow start, but I do expect him to pick it up. He was kind of the favorite to be Big Ten Player of the Year. I mean, you look at his assists, he's averaging 11 assists, so that is obviously a huge thing to look at. But they play Alabama later this week, and then I already mentioned they play Marquette next week. So these next couple games here for Purdue will really see how good they can really be coming off the national championship appearance and losing Zach Edey. Number 11, I have Baylor, only moving down 1 spot. You could argue I should move him down more, and I can see why. I mean, they got absolutely blown out by Gonzaga not week 1, in the first game of the season, but then they came back and beat Arkansas, who was a ranked team. It was essentially a road game for Baylor, so playing a top 10 team essentially on the road, first game of the year. I know they lost by 40, so that's obviously not what you like to see. But I will give them a little bit of leeway. I do have to move them outside the top 10, though. Because it's hard to ignore losing by 38 points. But moving into our top 10, number 10 is going to be Arizona, moving down 1 spot. Not necessarily because they did something wrong, just because I felt that a team deserved to pass over them. But they beat in their first game they won by 39 points, and in their second game they won by 58. So that is just a score, 102 to 44. This week they go on the road to Wisconsin. That's going to be a tough game, and then the following week they play Duke. So again, we're really going to see a lot of these teams start to play each other and really see how legitimate they are. Arizona, as of right now, is ranked 7th in KenPom, just narrowly outside the top 10 in offense, and then 8th in defense. Number 9, I have UNC. They lose to Kansas. They were trailing by 20 at one point in that game. They came back and almost won. They were actually leading with about 4 minutes left. RJ Davis didn't even play very well, and they were still right in that game. So I think that's a good sign for North Carolina. I do have to drop them down a little bit, but on the road to the number one team, only losing by 3 when your best player had a bad game. I mean, you could make an argument that's. I mean, yes, it hurts to lose early in the year, but that is um about as good of a loss as you can have. So I will give them some slack there. Number 8, I have Houston moving down 5 after they lose to Auburn. I didn't expect that, especially with the plane fighting whole situation Auburn had going. But Houston went out and lost. They were pretty much winning the whole game, and they ended up losing. Now, 5 spots seems like a lot, and it kind of is. But you look at the teams ahead of them. I mean, these are all really good teams. I mean, I feel like these top 9 teams, sorry for leaving Arizona out, but these top 9 teams look legitimate right now, so I have to drop Houston. I have to drop them down because they are the only team with a loss, besides obviously UNC, but that's why these two are at the bottom of these 9 teams I just mentioned. But Houston's still very high in KenPom. Looking at number 7, it's going to be Iowa State. Um, they've only played one game. They won by 40 points. The defense, once again, looks like one of the best in the country. They're ranked 2nd in KenPom right now. Houston is still ranked 2nd overall in KenPom, even with the loss. So that is good to see. They're top 5 in both offense and defense. But when looking at Iowa State, I think Iowa State is still going to be an elite team and competing for the Big 12 once again. Number 6, I have Duke staying where they're at. When looking at Duke, they're ranked 3rd in KenPom right now, top 5 in offense and defense. So that is always a good sign. With Duke, they put up 96 in their first game and 100 in their second game. They play Kentucky this week. They've got non-conference games against Arizona, against Kansas, against Auburn. Those are all top 10 teams as of right now. And like I said, they play Kentucky this week, who's also ranked. When looking at Cooper Flagg, he started off solid, 15.5 points per game through the first 2. We'll see what happens with him. Obviously, going to keep an eye on him because he is the at least experts think he's going to be the National Player of the Year. So we'll see. Obviously, that is one of the huge storylines this year in college basketball. Moving into the top 5, though, Gonzaga's gonna kick it off here. Like I said, they beat Baylor, a top 10 team, by 40 points. They did struggle against Arizona State, but is that Arizona State being good? Is that, a little bit of a hangover? Probably a little bit of both. When looking at Gonzaga, though, I think they're going to be an elite team. I mean, they've put up 101 and 88 against 2 Power 5 teams to kick off the year. I think as of right now, their offense is by far the best offense, at least in KenPom. So when looking at Gonzaga, they're going to be very hard to beat this year. I think that goes without saying. I mean, we saw it in the Baylor game. That was just an absolute beatdown that they put on the Bears. Number 4, I have Auburn moving up 7 spots after their win against Houston. And they also beat Vermont, who is one of the best non-Power 5 teams. And they beat them by 50 points. Auburn is the number 1 team in KenPom right now. They're 2nd in offense, 4th in defense. Crazy how they can have all the the locker room issues, the plane, they were fighting on the plane, they had to turn around, then fly back to Houston all a day, all within 24 hours of their game. They got and beat Houston. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about. And yeah, Auburn right now is definitely a top five team. If you don't agree with that, I don't know what to tell you. They play Iowa State. The Maui Invitational is going to be very interesting to watch this year around Thanksgiving time when it always is. Number three, though, I have Alabama moving down one. Alabama, I move them down one just because they did struggle against Arkansas State. They only won by 9 points. That is a little bit concerning. This Alabama team, they have Purdue this week, so we'll really see. You look at once they get McNeese here today, and then their next four games: Purdue, Illinois, Houston, and Rutgers. Those are all teams I've ranked top 25. And then after that, they play UNC and Creighton. So Alabama's non-conference is about as tough as anyone can get. I think that will help them in the long run. And obviously that'll help me and to get a good grasp of how good they really are. I still think the offense led by Mark Sears is going to be elite. And we're only 2 games in, so I don't want to overreact too much. But I think dropping them down one is fair. UConn's going to be the team moving up 2 spots here because Houston was at 3. So UConn's going to move up. They've beaten both of their opponents by about by 35 plus points. Yeah, UConn once again looks like one of the best teams in college basketball. I don't think that surprises anyone. They're ranked 7th in offense and defense right now. They're ranked 5th in KenPom overall, ahead of Alabama. I think they're once again going to be one of the elite teams in college basketball. I think that goes without saying. But the number one team is going to be Kansas, staying where they're at. I mean, you look at the win over UNC, how they were able to get out to such a big of a lead. They almost blew it, but the thing that most people say, oh, they almost blew the lead. But the way I look at it is, they blew the lead, but then they gave UNC all the momentum, and they still ended up winning. Yes, it was at home, and they only won by 3, but UNC is an elite team. I mean, I had them ranked at 5th last week. I think we'll see how they play against Michigan State here tomorrow. I think that's going to be a real testament, because if they go out there and blow them out, now I don't think they'll blow them out, because Izzo very rarely gets blown out. And Michigan State is a team I have in the top 40, but I think Kansas is much better. I do expect them to win, but again, we will see. If they go out and lose, that would be quite the shocker. But the team is loaded once again. DeJuan Harris, Hunter Dickinson, A.J. Storr, Zeke Mayo's had a great start to the year for them. Yeah, the Jayhawks are going to be the number one team here. I think that's pretty, obvious. It goes without saying. But that's going to do it for the Week 2 Power 40 rankings. Like I said, we're doing these every single Monday. Make sure you tune in if you enjoyed. Like this video if you enjoyed. Comment down below what you agree, what you disagree, your opinions. Love to talk down there. Subscribe if you're new. We're doing college basketball every Monday. NFL every Tuesday now. Usually it was Wednesdays. Now it's Tuesday. College football every Wednesday. We switched around NFL and college football. And then NBA every Thursday along with MLB content when that season is rolling. So if any of that interests you, make sure you go on there, subscribe. Links in the description. As always, X, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. Make sure you follow those, join those. But with all that being said, that is going to do it. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow with our NFL weekly picks. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.